Welcome to Politica Show on Lions Wire. Today is January 8th, 2025, and our interview is going to be with Ilya Levkov, our permanent at this point political analyst. Welcome to the show, Ilyusha.
Thank you.
Very eventful week. Let's start with U.S. news. Former President Carter died. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. But you know what? We will get to Carter maybe with a little bit other things that are of uniqueness and values. Let me
Absolutely. Freestyle, Ilya.
Look at this. I will tell you. The first, because it's never happened in history when, as you know, on January the 6th, there was a counting of the voice candidate,
votes, electoral votes.
Electoral vote. So this was for the first time in history when the vice president, who is usually receives it and certified it. So in this case, this was Kamala Harris, and there are two interesting things. First of all, she had to say that she lost, and gave the number of the electorate and compared it to the number of electorates that were received by Trump. So this was this one awkward element. But there was another one practically hidden because she certified a person to be the president of the United States, whom she addressed for several months as Hitler.
That was quite unique, I agree.
You see, it's a pity that it didn't have enough oxygen and didn't roll through, but it's amusing, amazing, and shocking at the same time.
It is, I do have to say, it is somewhat surprising. The Democrats accepted it quite calmly, losing this election, and there does appear to be a very orderly transition with no resistance.
Yeah. Well, because they didn't simply lost it; they were dismembered, and there is a puzzle within the rank. Listen, Carville, as he said, how was I so stupid, to hope that, and he was advisor to Clinton and all that thing. Speaking about this, I just got another book about Clinton presidency, but it's aside. The other thing is that it actually symbolized the end of era of Obama. Everything is fresh and radical turn happened under Obama, and this put end to all that. Trump didn't have much time and velocity in his first presidency. Biden, of course, turned even the screw tighter to the left, and therefore, right now, the things are being thrown into one by one into the carbon history. What's interesting is that nobody knows where this expression came from. It came in the lecture by Leon Trotsky, who was signing the Brest-Litovsk Agreement in 1918, and who spoke in German to the general, and he gave them a hot potato of communist ideology and all that. And then he said that we will be the communists. Smaller border, larger borders and territory, but he pointed to those German generals in German. where he was fluent in it. And he said, but you will find your place in a dustbin of history. Now, everybody quotes it, not knowing that they're quoting Trotsky. One of amusing thing when, a person who dwelt in such minute and meaningful, not simply minute, because I remember when the first time I didn't read his article, his speech in German, though it exists somewhere. I should find actually. It was interesting to read his original speech in the original language it was delivered, because it was bewildering, you understand? All those Prussian generals, listening to it before they signed this treaty, and which actually guaranteed that Russia will not move its forces from wherever they are. But they did move. They did move them, and therefore Germany, in order to allow Germany, the new power by the Westerns, to allocate additional forces in World War I, even to the Western Front.
Right.
So the Western Front was not that quiet, despite the title of that prominent book. Okay,
Right.
let's go a couple more points about the change of that thing. You see, once again, I don't remember everything what I talked to you, and I don't have it in my files. But did I mention that the most unique element of Trump victory can be summarized in two numbers?
Which 50, one?
56 and 31. Did I?
No, we didn't. We didn't talk about it.
Okay. Let me, for those of us who wants to follow, this is actually the most meaningful revolution of Trump that happened within the nation, i.e., in 2015, as Trump was ascending, the belief, the nation, the people, 56% of the nation believe and trusted the press and the central TV. This number almost got cut in half, 31%, when now Trump has succeeded to return to the White House. That is, during these wars that were the first one when he was elected, then fighting another round versus Biden, and what happened is that the nation has understood that you cannot trust the central press, the central mass media. And it's very, very meaningful because, as you know, there were parallel forces of the internet, of the the lines of friends, Facebook friends, Facebook and all that, and other
Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Yeah,
that played a major role. You see, but they played a major role because they besmirched Trump, and without saying sorry. And as you know, we are now in a position that today or tomorrow, the appeal will be done today to the Supreme Court, where Trump wants to demand from the court, from the Judge Marchand, that he should not announce his verdict and thus codify Trump as a convicted felon, even if in the future it will be taken away on appeal, Mm-hmm. But Trump has said he cannot do it, where the argument of the Judge Marchand is, who convicted Trump on 34 clauses, said elected president does not have yet the immunity which the president has. You understand?
Yeah.
So even they did everything in order to prevent him, and they thought they will besiege him with courts. So, and later on, when it didn't work, so the idea is now, and he will appeal. That is, but the problem, as I stated, yeah, appeal will take place under normal circumstances much later. Meanwhile, he will be the convicted felon, and this will be utilized once again as that effort in 2016-17 to prove that Trump is an agent of Putin.
Right.
And you see, just to be smirky, you know, as Seinfeld was to say, not that it's bad, you know, but it's a terrible bad.
Ilya, what do you make of Facebook's decision? I think it came out yesterday or today. I think it was yesterday, to cancel fact checking.
Yes. Well, first of all, he came to Trump, brought $1 million contribution to the gala celebrations, and the same thing, Bezos did it. It's unusual. Look at those, the kings of internet, you know. They came to Trump on their own. Before them, the first one who came was Mika and Joe, but they came empty-handed. Those boys understand, you know, if you want a pardon and peace, you have to bring something
tangible,
like Homentashen, you see. So each of them brought and gave $1 million, which is never, of course, everybody who knows a little bit of history said this was a classical reincarnation of going to Canossa. You know, those are bishops that revolted and then gave in to papacy, and they crawl. They not simply walk, they crawl to the Vatican to forgive, ask for forgiveness from the Pope. All right.
Okay.
Let me just think. So this was his Carvel, and at the same time, just to point, Biden began a certain vengeance. You know, he now a so-called blocked ban of 625 acres of surf sea in the sea to ban the potential drilling for gas and oil, just to slow down. And suddenly he is alive, suddenly he is functioning, and suddenly he also voices, says if they didn't threaten him, he would have voted against Trump. One more interesting element that was not mentioned in American press or any others, to best of my knowledge. 2 days ago, I think Biden gave the Medal of Freedom to 3 people. It was Cheney. It was who was the second one? And in a moment I will Cheney. Hillary Clinton and the son of Soros. Now, why did he decide to give the son of Soros? You know why?
Because son of Soros, I think Alexander is his name. He took over the business.
Yeah, yes, but still, you know, you have time to give it to him. But first, so he honored the father. Father sent the son to be there. Why it happened? You know, this is my interpretation. Look at this. Biden, as you know, wants very, very much to build a presidential library of Biden. Now, what happened is that he undermined the financial support that with the big donors said goodbye to him, to the Democrat Party. said goodbye to him. Their actions and all that also, they are not ready to contribute money. And besides this, they already got burned with Camilla with $1 billion. It was more than enough. So Chinese also shy him away. Now, who else can he ask for several hundred millions dollars? Because this is what it takes to set up a library, building, service, staff, and all that thing. Of course, the only one is Soros. So how to activate Soros, who is no longer really active? Honor him and honor his son. And now he can knock on their doors in a couple of months and said, remember me? I gave you Medal of Freedom.
So
Give
I
me
think
some.
they will be talking about building library.
That he will remind and demands. He says, listen, you should contribute to my library. That was the last called act, what he is doing. Though there are several others, as you know, he released 7 people from Guantanamo. And who were those 7 people? Those were terrorists. Do you know which terrorists they were? They were terrorist Houthis from Yemen. And you know what was else Biden and Houthis? When he came into his administration, he denied that Houthis were terrorists and moved them as a non-terrorist. And now, with the help of Iran, they're shooting around the Red Sea, stopping the merchant seas, and of course shooting at Israel to show them muscle, and so they will have trouble if they will not stop menacing
Yeah.
poor innocent Hamas. So I think most of these points that I can say about Biden. I would like to say only a word or two. What happened to Republicans? You see, Republicans was the ideological movement coherent. There were no variety. The Big Ten. The Big Ten is of the Democrats. In the Republicans, they were kind of more or less the same. And this was broken by Reagan when he made political coalition. He made political coalition with the Speaker of the House, Irish, and they would have, it's very detailed analysis, plenty written about this, and they simply would argue in the Congress, for particular thing, and thereafter they will go to bar and enjoy beer or something stronger. Now, what happened thereafter, said that Trump in the first round, he tried to expand. Remember, he was talking about the blacks and Latinos, and he thought that the percentage, both of them, blacks were only 5% to 6% voting for Republicans, Latinos about 8-9. So, but it was enlarged during the first term of Trump to almost doubled in both cases. Now when he ran, it even tripled. So here's how he won. He won by creating a coalition rather than solidified one party, one wing of the party, as it was before, dominant. So he created a coalition, and the coalition embraces a very, very wide scope of people. Those are workers, lower middle class. The Republican Party is no longer associated and defined by the rich guy smoking cigars, in the dim lighted room. So that is what's interesting and meaningful. In addition to those 2 numbers that I gave before, that he created a very, very wide coalition from bottom up, not from top down. And this is the main contribution, I would say, of the so-called Trump movement. Uh, Trump and the Trump philosophy. And now, he shoots every day with the new ideas, especially those three ideas. Canada can stamp 51st rate, Panama should become American, Greenland should become American, and even the Bay of Mexico should be the Bay of America. So he gives a lot of fire around. Some of it's absolutely serious and functional. As to rename it, it's of course less serious, but United States, indeed, I think the mileage of the Bay, I think, exceeds that of United States, and the Bay exceeds that of Mexico. Why should it be called Mexico, the southern sea border of the United States, which is called Mexico instead of America? So all those things together gives us what Biden is trying to do the most recent days, and what happened. What is happening on the other. Maybe a couple. I think I did speak about the Greenland. You see, my audience. I appear in 2-3 other.
They did not talk about Greenland yet on this channel. No, not Panama.
And Panama. So Panama, I shall tell you, Panama. Why Carter was softy, and he was very, very soft, that the radicals were calling America a colonialist country because of the Panama Canal. It's for the first time, so-called, that United States, it's a unique because United States bought the land. Actually, they created a new country. As you know, there was no Panama. They supported Panama, which agreed in principle, and then they bought this land from the new state of Panama. They invested the money in labor, and they ran it, and suddenly Panama wanted, they simply didn't press, it was a minor issue, very, very minor issue. What was the issue? The issue was, Carter didn't want to be as a colonialist or neo-colonialist, you see. That was his weak spot. And based on that, they decided that this process has begun, and his process of began. The process began, and then it rolled. As I mentioned to you before, that Saul Linowitz was the main lawyer and strategist. I have his book somewhere, but I will get a Nobel Prize if I will be able to find this book among all my piles of books. So I didn't read, but it was interesting because he is the first generation. It's also interesting, the first generation American success story is also not only that they invent something or accumulate richness, but also that they attain central positions, second position, but central still in the American government. It was Roosevelt had Morgenthau, and Truman had his best friend, from childhood when he was selling hats. And everybody, if you look, it's who was Reagan. Reagan had these neoconservatives who were primarily Jewish. Secretary and Undersecretary of State, Undersecretary of Defense, etc. So in this particular case, Saul was really very, very active with a particular input to do good. As a saying goes, he wanted to be goodnik and not no goodnik. You understand? In this polarity, translated from Yiddish. So I would say It's worthwhile if you guys can get his books. There are several other books. He even published a book about anti-Semitism in academia, I believe, years and years before.
But
So
going back to Panama Canal,
I
what
would
role he played there?
not much. The Panama Canal is that the treaty said there were two treaties, not one. It which the second one stated said it should not be the United States now pays more per passage of ships in other states, so they're being discriminated. Secondly, said this there are Chinese workers on both ends of the canal. Big deal. One so-called tiny accident, the ship sinks, and there's no movement through the canal. And if they need to move, forget about Pampers, but military, soldiers, and hardware, suddenly this shortcut from California or from east to west to pass by the United States is disadvantaged, and it's a weak spot for in the American strategy. Therefore, he just said, "Listen, we gave it, we built it with it. Somebody gave you a gift. Yes, we are not Indians, but we have to become Indian givers, i.e." Give it back to us or we'll compensate you, whatever. But it should be under the US control.
That is
So
the
this
current
was,
argument from Trump. That's what he is claiming.
yeah. He pressed it. He raised it in the previous term, in his first term. But he could not and didn't do anything about this. His hands were tied by everybody who is not asleep, and by COVID, etc. I wanted to say two more aspects about Carter, and by this I think we'll finish the story for today.
Okay,
truly.
sure.
Little bit of it about Israel. You see, Carter had two other additional cases. One was a Camp David. The Camp David was very, very interesting case. Why? Because Carter was involved in the depths of this process. He really locked Sadat, Anwar Sadat in Camp David together with a team, Israeli team, Begin. And there they had a lot of things that they tried to test each other. What were the tests? First of all, Carter received from the CIA a brief of 18 pages, I think, which stated that, and there is even a book by this name, Lawrence Wright, says 13 Days in September, came out in 2014, where the CIA described Sadat as a visionary, a bold leader, and he was willing to be flexible. This is what Carter received, analysis from the CIA. On the other hand, he received also contrast depicted Begin as secretive and legalistic. He was he had a rough Israeli Polish accent. B, he was a lawyer from the old school, and therefore they tried to do something. So after the first meeting, Carter came back, and Rosalind, his wife, was there, and Camp David as well. And he said his conclusion was, I don't think he has any begging. I don't think he has any intention of going through with a peace treaty. So on one hand, he was perceived negatively, and it seems to me in the first night, Carter already had a lower estimate of Begin than by United States and Anwar Sadat. Now, there were other things. What another element? Carter, since he was 18 years old, he taught what we call Sunday school, or those of you who knows a little bit variation, Sunday school. Sunday is a shame school. It's a Jewish definition of a Sunday school in the synagogues, because they learn nothing. Therefore, they should be ashamed. And it was called Sunday school. So, with, with that, Carter wanted to show to Begin that he is a big margin of the Bible. And because he was 18, that is, he is about 30 years by now. He was also a pastor in a Baptist church, so he had 30 years reading Bible to kids. Yes, he did. And then he even explained. He read the Old Testament and he read the New Testament, Territorially, that is, he had some superficial knowledge of the Bible, let's say.
Okay.
But still, it had an impact upon him, and that he decided it gave him an engine, a push to make peace in the Holy Land. That was the other thing. What's interesting is the political asset to Jimmy Carter. He was a farmer, peanut farmer, as you know. He grew up in a small hut. There was no water and no electricity. So he came from the bottom up. And his military, what's interesting, he was in the Navy and the submarine. You see, those guys are not climbing the rocks with a knife in their teeth, They're quiet, peaceful, under most of the time below the surface of the waters. They don't see, they never shot even torpedoes or other things besides the exercise. There was no accident where American submarines shot the Russian submarines. So he had this character of a nice, mellow fellow, you see. Then this why his resolution to fight the Arab boycott of oil after 1973, he says, let's lower the thermostat and let's all wear sweaters. And he, at the White House, always wore sweaters, not the jackets. It was a tie, white shirt, tie, but sweaters because they warm you much, much better. So, and they went forth and back and forth. I don't want to go. It's a very interesting resume how the characters, based on all that, being a non-military, being religious, you see, being also from the Democratic Party. So how he began his climb? His climb began with when he became a governor. The governor, he was brought to be a governor, no other by a fellow, Stuart Eisenstadt. Stuart Eisenstadt, I have pictures with him in the White House with Avital Sharadsky and all that, which I cannot find it as well. I wanted to bring it and to show it. But he was later on when Carter, my other professor, Brzezinski, made from him the ascent to the international level and made him a participant in the Trilateral Committee. And therefore, in this Trilateral Committee, Carter became aware of world politics. So there are two people that in a way made Carter the political and savvy and not very savvy politician, because he still wanted to make good. He reminds Mr. Rogers. Mr. Rogers, right? He is Mr. Rogers. Just Mr. Rogers was taking off his sweater when he came in, and Carter was wearing the sweaters when he came into the White House. All right, jokes aside, cannot change. The old horse you cannot change. So therefore, all those jumps to the side. But in any case, they tested him. So Carter bargained with Begin about the Bibles. What did Brzezinski did? he tested Begin as well. He played chess with him, and through his way, you analyze chess. Why did he select to do this? What you can come about his personality, instantly. If you play the defensive, role can slowly developing, or you charge to occupy the four square in the center. So he tested him, but he didn't write on his books. He did not, but it was obvious that it was not simply using free time, quality time, and playing chess. But photos survived for plenty. Now, Carter thought that Begin might demand the Sinai Peninsula. And here, once again, he was mistaken. He says, why is that? Why is it we should take the Sinai Peninsula? But in United States, Jews and Americans live in such biblical towns as Shiloh, Bethel, Bethlehem, etc. But Jews in the West Banks, were called Yehuda and Shomron, are not allowed. So there was plenty of, hot peppers during this time. And finally, they did a great, because there were, an American team, there were a variety of people, beginning with President, then with Carter, Brzezinski, who was more ambivalent, and William Quant, one all-time State Department person. And of course, they had to negotiate and divided. Begin surprised, and that he surprised the Israelis, and he gave too willingly the Sinai back for the third time to Egyptians. It was in 48, 56, 68,
Yep.
and even 70s and 73. There were 4 times Israel occupied Sinai, huge territory, which is, I forgot how many times, 4, 5, 4 more than
The territory of Israel.
Israel, right?
It's more.
So, in any case, there was interesting moment in history where the parties were locked and were negotiating, and what's so-called terrible, not so terrible, but Sadat Adam, he was killed, Sadat, because he did this move. Now, one more thing, and this is the event of Carter again, with the effort to release the hostages. That is, everything what could went wrong. One helicopter was less and had to return. The other helicopters, when they tried to move out to the sea where they landed on the ships, got crashed with one another, and there were, I forgot the number of Marines that were killed.
This happened when, Ilya? What are we talking?
This was 79, because 80 were elections, and of course Carter lost. So another interesting thing is in his administration there were 3 people, my classmates from Columbia, who served. One was undersecretary of the Pentagon, and a woman, I do remember her name, and she was there in his administration. Then there was in the White House where 2 people, one in charge of Central Europe and one in charge of Iran. The guy who in charge of Iran, I was very close, because when we met in the first party in 1969, somehow I told him I'm an Israeli. Oh, he says, I wanted to talk to an Israeli. How come? He said, because I was in the 6 Day War. He was the officer Marine in the American embassy in Cairo. So he wanted somehow to hear from a person live how was it perceived from the other side. And we had a lovely discussion. I remember that he was saying, no, the United Nations didn't give a lot and to the Israelis, where we went for some books and found the party showed in the map, and indeed he was not correct. But it's interesting, here is an American, educated. Later on, he was, an unusual thing. He was a man, this person, his name is, he wrote 2 books, and one of them is October Surprise, if you know why the Iranians, how the Republicans dealt with Iranian in the last months of 80, when assuring them, though to say assuring them that they would have a better deal with Reagan than with Carter, and thus Iranians did not release their subject until Reagan swore allegiance to defend the country from outside and inner enemies, and only then Iranians released those hostages. What's interesting thing, well, it's once again, jump aside, said the same hour practically, my author, Vasily Aksyonov, who was traveling in the United States, learned that the Soviet Union took away his Soviet citizenship. So, I would say this is the main thing, though I can tell you many, many more things what have happened thereafter. Carter became, surprisingly, with all his knowledge of the Old Testament, etc., he became on a border. I wouldn't call him anti-Semitic, but very, very Israelis, because he wrote the book, as you recall, he wrote about 50, 60 books. He also worked, building habitat, helping. He was building homes and houses. Very interesting. The only president who, became member of the trade union and built houses. But what is more than that, he published this book, Israel hyphen apartheid state, with a question mark, but there was little inside the pages, there was little question about this, that he did consider Israel as an apartheid state. So I would say it's enough. I don't want to
that's good enough.
Deal.
Thank you, Ilya. Thank you for this exposition of latest news and their implications. And we'll talk next week.